Really?
The five of us, the five things. And by the way, Yaya and Papu just love doing the dives over the shampoo.
Yeah, do the whole thing.
They're old, but they can hang on, man. Hold their breath for a long time. And then we stop by the restaurants out by the airport to pick up all the turkey and the fixins.
Right.
Because that is, if you want to have a Thanksgiving feast, the restaurants out by the airport are really the place to have it.
And that Roy Rogers Fixin' Bar they have.
It's insane. The only problem is occasionally your plane gets bumped and you have to stay there a little longer.
Yeah,
That's the only thing that's difficult.
But other than that,
it's not bad.
Now, how was your dog? Last time you were here, we talked about your dog.
Yeah,
right? I know.
My dog I have a very old dog. We're not even sure when she was born. We think it was 84, maybe it was 85, which is dog years. This is a very old dog.
Yeah.
And she had to have hip surgery on both of her hips. So we still have to essentially walk for our dog. She's inside, and you don't want to have a dog inside all the time because they have to do the thing.
Right.
And so we cut out, one of those canvas grocery bag holder things.
Right.
We cut that, slit the seams on that, and then we wrap it underneath her and carry her around like a suitcase.
I see.
And so she kind of like goes in there, and her hips are kind of like she's shaved on one side, so her hips are kind of askew. But we develop incredible powers of communication with our dogs. It has to be good for us because we have to read her face. And usually she's just kind of like this, but every now and again she gets this look. And that means it's time to walk the dog outside so she can do the thing. So we're always like, how you doing, girl? How you doing? How you doing, girl? Okay, come on, let's go. Get the thing. Where's the thing? And we got to carry her on outside. She's the sweetest
Now, do you hold her as she goes, or do you hold her over a plant or something?
I love my dog, Jay. I will do anything for my dog, and yes, we do. We do.
I mean, do you give the dog the privacy, or do you?
Oh no, I say, come on, get to it. Let's go. Come on, hurry up. Come on.
See, because I can't go if you do that to me. It must be terrible pressure on the dog. You ever been in the men's room with a guy standing next to you? Will you leave so I can go? You can't.
I always say, come here, I want to show you something.
That might work too well, actually.
It's a great equalizer, man.
People, okay, you're on your own.
Come on, you're not going to believe it. It's incredible.
Now, how's your shoulder? Which one did you dislocate?
Oh, yeah, I separated this shoulder.
How, and how did you do that?
I fell, I was touring this place that was a museum that was under construction, and I was over in Europe. We were doing location scout. And there wasn't a lot of light around, and I had this little keyring flashlight, and I was checking out these rooms where they had some cool exhibits, and I went into this other room with my keyring flashlight and took a step and didn't realize there was a stairwell there, and I fell about 10 feet. Separated my shoulder. It didn't feel good. You know how you know when something is really wrong? You really want to throw up bad.
Yeah.
They said, how do you feel? Does your arm hurt? I said, no, but I think I want to throw up. Oh, that's bad. Then something's really wrong with you. And the paramedics had to come and give me medicants.
Were they foreign paramedics?
Yeah, they were. They were foreign paramedics. And they kept saying, we are going to give you medicants now. We are going to give you medicants now. Soon your medicants will be kicking in. We are going to give you the medicants. It was like Arnold Schwarzenegger is rescuing me, and she's going to pop my shoulder back in for me, which they did. And it still hurts. It takes a long time to get over that.
Now, are you doing the therapy thing?
I have a great team of physical therapists that always ask me, does this hurt?
Yeah, and then
as they're moving on. Does that hurt? Yeah, it does. Oh, you're improving then. Yeah. Does that hurt? Yeah.
Now tell us about Toy Story 2. Gotten wonderful reviews, by the way. They say even better than the
very nice movie.
Better than the first one,
great, I must say.
Yeah.
The people at Pixar, John Lasseter, the director, the technology is even better, and I think it's actually an interesting, better movie. It's still a hard gig. It's not an easy job to do.
Now you see, it seems to those that do, because you're not on screen, you don't have to put on makeup. You just come in. Hey, Billy, hand me that phone there. I think you're Larry. I mean, but it's not. It's
well, you actually have to walk into a dark room with a microphone and the script and everything. You end up staying there for like 4 or 5 hours, and part of it is you just have to imagine all the stuff that's going on, and it's very hard. And John and the whole staff at Pixar, they cajole you, and they kind of keep you going. But after a while, you have to result on kind of tricks of the trade in order just to make sure the performance stays fresh.
Yeah.
They have things like. This is a Woody doll, and they'll have all sorts of toys in there. And so they'll have this, and they'll say, okay, take Woody and do Woody, pretend that he's falling downstairs. Oh, gee, I fell down the stairs. Or what happens when Woody rides it? Oh, come on, let's go, come on, go right off it. He does that kind of stuff. And then but then they'll have moments where it's just regular dialogue. And they'll say, pretend Woody is talking, from the heart. Or say there's a scene, there was actually this one scene. One of the things, have you seen the movie? Anybody seen it yet? Woody was actually famous in the 1950s. He had a show called Woody's Roundup. And he didn't know that, and he's just finding out for himself. And so for a while there, he was so famous that he became a bit of a celebrity. And so they wanted me to pretend what it would be like to have Woody on like a talk show. And so they provided me...
Let me see that. Oh, is that me?
Yeah, that's you. And so you end up doing things like, well, you know, Jay, I feel really good about the work that I've done on Toy Story 2. Is that right? Now, somebody told me, wait, no, this is a famous movie. Now, Kevin, is this not a fabulous movie?
Apparently I have a tumor of some sort.
By the way, Woody, did you see this funny headline in the paper? You seen that funny headline? Caught napping. Now, what is that about? And it just kind of helps. And,
Really?
you get by, and any kind of aid in order to make it fresh. And
it's an incredible likeness. That's what I like about it. It's not like it's not flattering.
Well, you know, I was working on these at home, scared the bejesus out of my kids.
Really?
I had to put it in the refrigerator. Really. But then everybody would come by and pick up the talk show host action figure, as we call it. And start going like this. Did you hear about that guy out in Malibu that lost his house again? Can you believe that happened? We're going to be here all week, folks. Coming up next week, we got Puff Daddy's coming up now. Puff Daddy is
Lovely. A lovely thing. Now, we have a clip from the actual film.
This is, Woody has suffered damage, and he gets put up, where the damaged toys get put up, which
let's take a look.
Which is a bad place. Wow, Jay Leno!
What are you doing up here? I thought Mom took you to get your squeaker fixed months ago. Andy was so upset.
Nah, she just told him that to calm him down, and then put me on the shelf.
Well, why didn't you yell for help?
Well, I tried squeaking, but I'm still broken. No one could hear me. Besides, the dust aggravates my condition. What's the point in prolonging the inevitable? We're all just one stitch away from here to there.
Yard sale.
Yard sale! Yard sale! Guys, wake up! There's a yard sale outside!
Yard sale?
Sarge, emergency roll call!
Sir, yes, sir. Red alert! All civilians fall into position now! Single file! Let's move!
Ham, here. Potato heads, Mr. and Mrs.
Here.
Trinkets. Check.
I hate yard sales!
Yo.
Ah! Someone's coming!
Well, terrific job. And also, very briefly, on December 10th, Green Mile. What a remarkable picture this is.
Oh, that's a...
And this is a serious movie. Wasn't it amazing, Kev? A movie unlike anyone I've ever seen
It was
before.
directed by Frank Darabont, who did The Shawshank Redemption, and it's from the novel by Stephen King.
Well, just great. Very, very spiritual movie, very moving. Just a wonderful job. And I think there's going to be some nominations on that one, too.
Well,
and what was the gentleman's name?
Michael Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan. He's going to be on here.
He plays John Coffey.
Boy, he's incredible, as you were, too. Tom, thank you. Can you stick around for John Glenn?
I certainly will.
Senator John Glenn coming up right after this. Tom Hanks.
This is my husband, Mark. We're going to have 3 beautiful children and live happily ever after in Paris.
You know, like Mars Needs Women, you know, these kind of movies. you know, that could never happen.
I don't get mad, I just turn them off.
Now, did you have a couple of questions about space?
Well, I know that when the senator went up on Mercury, the doctors were worried about such things happening, perhaps in zero gravity exposure, like your eyeballs coming out of your sockets and floating around on their optical cords. And I just want to know, did your eyeballs come out of your sockets?
Coming out. No, but I'll tell you one thing they were worried about was whether your eyes would change shape or not, and whether your vision would change. And I actually had a little doctor's eye chart on the top of the instrument panel I was to read every 20 minutes during the flight to see whether my vision was changing or not. So they were concerned about things like that, and about whether when the fluid in the inner ear sort of moves around more randomly than it would right now, whether that would give you such nausea and vertigo that you wouldn't be able to function properly. So they were concerned about things like that.
Did you get sick in space?
Not in space. I didn't feel too good when I came back down at the end of the mission, back on the runway.
Okay.
And so I didn't feel good there, but I felt fine up in space, yeah.
Tom, did you get sick in fake space?
I got sick in fake space, yeah. You're on that vomit comment. I got sick on a vomit.
That's a different deal. If you can imagine yourself in an airplane going down, you pull 2 or 3 Gs, and you pull up, and you go up, and then you free float in the cabin about 35, 40 seconds over the top, and then you pull out again. And that's the way they filmed Apollo 13 was, what'd you do, 50 parabolics on every...
Yeah, we ended up doing
like that.
As a matter of fact, we added up our time of zero gravity flight for all of our parabolas, and we were just under your flight on Mercury. We had about 3 hours and 54 minutes, and then you were up for over 4 hours.
Mine was more fun than yours.
Actually, you are the age now that he was then when he went on that mission. Right? You were just about, what, a little over 40?
I was just over 40, coming up on 41.
So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you about Discovery now. You went up in space again at age 77, what, to test how space affects older Americans. How'd you hold up?
Good. I feel fine. They haven't released all the medical data yet, and they're planning to do that, I think, sometime in January.
Okay.
And what it was, you know, we're looking at the similarities between the natural process of aging here and what happens to the younger astronauts up there. And so we really, by comparing these things, we're trying to find out what turns the body on and off in these different things, like osteoporosis and body's immune system changes and muscle system changes, protein turnover doesn't work the same way. Things like that we hope eventually will not only let the astronauts go on longer space flights without some of these effects, but also hopefully turn off some of the frailties of old age right here on Earth, some of these things. So that's
Now, do you think space is a good environment for older Americans? Like if you, like
I think we could put a retirement home up there, you know? Yeah, I'm all for it. I would like to head the first retirement home up there because there are a lot of things you have to think about on this, you know? Old geezers let food get away from them all the time. And it falls on your necktie. Well, up there, the food doesn't go on your necktie. It just floats out in front. You can pick it up, put it back in again.
That's pretty good,
And you don't have problems with things like balance. You don't need a cane, a walker, a wheelchair, anything like that. There are no more broken hips from falling down if you're old up there because you're just as comfortable with your head toward the floor as you are with your feet toward the floor.
I never thought of that.
And you have things like a lot of old folks have problems sleeping. Well, up there you don't need to worry about this because there'll be another night along in 45 minutes.
Right. So you're up for 2 or 3 weeks, doesn't matter.
And driving, you no problems driving up there. There's not much traffic. If the old guy leaves the left turn signal on, doesn't make any difference.
Now, let me ask you something. Now, you promised your wife, Annie, you wouldn't go back into space again.
You'd have to bring that up, wouldn't you?
No, let me ask you about that. How is that promise holding up? I mean, you've been married how long? How many years?
56.
56. Okay, so you go back and you go, look, honey, I got to go back. I mean, would you go up again? Did you promise her you wouldn't go up
I
again?
would like to, but, you know...
Did you promise her you wouldn't go up again?
A flexible promise, let's put it that way. I would like to go up again, of course, but I really think if they send someone older up, it should... right now, of people in my age bracket, we have a database of 1.
Yeah, that's it.
Me. And so I think we really should send someone else up, but if they were going to send somebody...
Tell folks how you got interested in flying. And you met Charles Lindbergh, which...
Yeah, back in World War II days, you know, I was flying the Corsair, and the first Corsair is the old F4U, the inverted gull wing. Remember, you've seen that in some of the TV recountings of some of the World War II days. And they had an improved version of that, and Lindbergh flew that for United Aircraft. He came around and was demonstrating at the different squadrons, and some of us flew that airplane. And he was out in the Pacific and flew a couple of missions with our squadron out in the Pacific later on, so I had a chance to meet him. I didn't know him well, but
he was the astronaut of his day. I mean, that was the biggest aviation feat in the history of man up to that point.
Or as I think the very first astronauts were really the Wright brothers because they were the first to leave Earth and stay away from Earth under powered flight, short as it was. And ever since then, just been higher and faster and higher and faster.
Now, did your dad want you to, you know, having growing up in a small town, I just found all this fascinating, how one goes from the town of, what's the town in Ohio again? It's
New Concord, Ohio.
New Concord, Ohio.
Muskingum College.
To literally going around the world.
Right.
Your dad introduced you to airplanes, huh?
Well, when I was about 8 years old, my dad, we were driving by a grass sod field once by, used to be the Cambridge Airport, they called it. It was a grass strip. And a fellow in an old open cockpit airplane was taking people for rides, and my dad suggested we go up, and I jumped on that one. So he and I went up, and we flew around in this open cockpit plane, both of us strapped in the back cockpit. And from that time on, I was hooked, and I started building model airplanes, and never thought, you know, flying was expensive, and I always thought I'd like to fly. But then in college, they came out with this civilian pilot training program, and the government would pay for you getting your private license, and you could get college credit for it, for physics. And I thought that was too good to miss. So
well, it's all in here. It's just a terrific book.
Good,
and
thank you.
You've had a wonderful life, an amazing life, sir. And I must say,
we've had a lot of opportunities.
it's always a thrill to meet you. A true American hero. Thank you very much, sir. Senator John Glen, be right back with Puff Daddy right after this.